All right, y'all, welcome back to another The Unscripted Room, where the podcast will be unscripted. Anything that we say and do in these casts, there's no scripting to it at all whatsoever. My name is TickleSlip, and today I have asked a longtime friend of mine to be a guest co-host because we do have a lot of differing views on things, and that's exactly what we need for this podcast, which Ansel Angeli is what he goes by. I will be calling him Ansel during the cast, and he will likely be referring to me as Tickle because that's how we've known each other for the last 8 years, and that's just the way it's going to be. Today's topic is going to be what is woke, because apparently we're at a convergent point in society where too many people are riding the coattails of others, and they don't understand what they're getting themselves into. They don't understand what the word actually means. They don't understand all the provocations that have occurred and have been resolved in either friendly or non-friendly ways since all this has been going on. And to everybody, this seems like something that has been going on since Donald Trump first came into office in 2000 and what was it, 16, 17, something like that, 18,
16.
16. There you go. I'm old. My brain sometimes is like rubber. Don't remember things so well. It seems like it has happened more and more since, Donald Trump came into office and all of the, fun times that have come from that. But it has actually been going on quite a bit longer than that. I would say at least 2 decades, the last 20 years. It just seems like it's more recent because everything has just been amped up real high, way, way, way higher than, it ever should have been. Or whatever, but before we get into all of it, and I apologize to everybody, we kind of started this and I didn't record the first like 7 minutes, so some of the answers might be slightly different than what they were the first time, but I promise you we will get to all of it. So the opening question for right now, I'm going to gear this towards Ansel, is when people hear woke today, what comes to mind? What do you think comes to mind?
I mean, when people hear woke today, what comes to mind is typically liberal propagandism, DEI, affirmative action, things of that nature.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I mean, so my point of this is that what people may or may not know about me is I became a registered Democrat about 5 years ago, maybe 6. And I was a registered Republican up until that point. I came from a very highly, highly charged Republican family, and they weren't. We had a few actual true Republican conservatives in the family, but the rest of them were when they say left wing and right wing and like extreme right wing, I would say the rest of my family is like extreme right wing. Like they're way out there, and in a place that even conservative Republicans are like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Maybe you'd like to just share a little bit of your voting background or whatever.
I am fundamentally against voting because this is a constitutional republic, and I am not educated, or I don't know how to put it, but I just don't believe that I should directly participate in the democratic process with the amount of time that I have to dedicate to knowing the ins and outs of the politics and laws involved. I focus mostly on knowing constitutional law because, again, this is a constitutional republic.
I agree with part of that. I've always been, and I know you've heard me say this multiple times. I've been a big proponent about getting rid of the two-party system. I mean, there's obviously more than just Democrat or Republican. There's Independent, there's Libertarian Party, there's the Green Party, the Tea Party. I mean, there's all these fucking parties, right? And so it's like, but the thing of it is that when it really comes down to it, it's not a party, it's a person. There's just shitty people in the world, and unfortunately, those shitty people keep doing shitty things, and then they get more shitty people to join them, and then it just, like our party system is a failure, and the way that we handle the way we handle elections is probably okay. Like, I mean, we don't really have a super historical reference for that as a new country, but I've always been vary against the parties, because ultimately, if you want to run for any kind of office in this country, you have to either run Republican or Democrat, and most people will only vote those two parties, and they won't vote for anything else. They don't. They may acknowledge it, but they don't. They're like whatever. And I think that that's wrong too. Like you should be voted in on your merits, and you should be voted for on your merits, and not all this other stuff. So anyway. So yeah, it's a pretty charged word, and why do you believe that woke became, or well, before we get to that, I'm just going to give the literal meaning of woke, which is that it is being aware of and not and attentive to important facts and issues of racial and social justice or injustice. I guess it's either way you want to do it. But why do you believe?
That is the co-opted definition? Yes.
Correct.
I'll say that every time. That is the co-opted definition.
For sure. And even expanding upon that, so the original term woke, which was actually apparently used as stay woke, goes all the way back to 1938. So, just so people are aware, most of the people that are using the term woke today were not alive when the word first, grabbed a foothold into at least our country. And it was primarily, against, it was probably used as something as for against black Americans before the civil rights movement and shit like that. But why do you believe that woke became such a charged word? And I'm not talking about like going back to 1938. I mean like in recent years, like in the last decade or two.
Because we care way too much about other people's opinions and signaling for those opinions. And so it's easy to just use a bad word to describe someone or some idea that you don't agree with, and use what sounds like a more positive word for what you're trying to promote.
Right. And then building upon that, and I mean, I fully believe that social media has brought out the worst in humanity ever since it really became a thing. And I mean, maybe at first, people are like, "Oh, cool! Now we can connect to each other without having to, travel 5 hours to go see our buddy in the next town or something like that." But I think that social media has had a huge influence on this, and because social media
Anything
works,
that can be weaponized will be weaponized.
for sure.
Everything can be weaponized.
And like wiki is to everything else, I feel like social media is to anything that wiki isn't. So yeah, and because it's unfiltered information, which I mean is more or less being unscripted. It's unfiltered.
Oh no, it's definitely filtered. Wiki?
Oh, wiki's filtered now. Yes. I'm talking to like social media. We're still dealing. We're still dealing.
Still filtered.
Yeah, but we're still
algorithmically filtered.
There you go. If you want to basically use something as a weapon, especially on social media, you hype up the algorithm to get it to push your content and only your content, and to try to push other content away.
More diabolical than that.
Oh, please elaborate.
The algorithm that pushes it is more individually focused. So I'll have my feed, you'll have your feed. My feed is my own personal echo chamber that reflects what I have looked at, what I've reacted to, what I liked, what I disliked, and tries to make it to where most of the opinions that I see will agree with my own. Now, here's the thing though, is that I have mine and you have yours. And so it's actually going to create divide, because now your feed starts filtering into my feed starts filtering into your feed based on our activity, because we're friends on, say, Blue App.
Right.
And so what you're looking at on Blue App starts, like, you react to it. So I see it in my feed that you reacted to it. And now suddenly I'm seeing a bunch of people with completely different opinions than mine. And so this is a problem. There's so many people with these wrong opinions. Meanwhile, you're doing the same thing on Blue App, where you're looking at my feed and you're seeing all these people that disagree with you. and you're like, oh wow, there's so many people that disagree with me, this is a problem. And so we each go back to our independent echo chambers and we talk about all the problems on quote unquote the other side.
Right. And then we try to sometimes we try to make sense of it. I mean, me personally, I've gotten to the point where I just don't even try to make sense of it anymore. I take it for what it is and go, okay. And
When
that's
I say we, I'm talking as a species.
right. And I'm saying, like, you know, I go and I look at this stuff and I'm just like, okay, whatever, right? And that goes back, or you know, that then brings in how we've become, like, as a species, insensitive. We're not sensitized to stuff anymore. Like, it's not like, oh my god, that just happened. Like, we don't even give a shit anymore because it happens so frequently and so often that we just, at this point, society is almost ignoring the problems and just wanting to kick the can down the road to somebody else. And it's like, we can't do that anymore. Like, and after the events of, like, this past month, we know we can't do that anymore. We're at the cusp of societal failure, or societal failure as a country, meaning the United States of America, because we are literally coming up on the first 300 years of country. And as history has shown us before, a lot of other countries and societies have failed within 250 to 300 years because of basically the same kind of, like, growing pains we're going through right now.
I mean, it looks that way from a current historical perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I just, I mean, maybe it's good, maybe it isn't. It is what it is, I guess. So I'll be honest, I don't even remember I think the first time I heard woke, like, as a word and as it's being used currently, was probably right around when Obama got elected. Because, you know, there was a whole bunch of, you know, shit and conspiracies and uh you know, just woke jargon being used around the time that he was elected as our president. When do you think the first time was that you've heard the term used?
In its current context,
Correct.
probably about 2012.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Well, I guess we should say in its weaponized form, because that's
what I
what it
mean.
is right now.
Under the co-opted definition.
Correct. Um. So, like, I guess my experience on this is, and obviously, you know, I'm a 50-year-old male, so, and I make that distinction because, you know, if I was a 50-year-old female, I would have different, I guess, well, I would have different opinions on all of this, because as a male, you know, we tend not to be objectified, or as a white male, we tend not to be objectified about anything, and we should definitely be, you know, objectified for some, you know, for some of what we do. I mean, not everybody deserves to be objectified at all, period, but you know, there's certain things that we should be accountable for in our lifetime, but we also learn things, you know, through a different looking glass than, say, a female, or, you know, a black man, or somebody who's native, or, and yes, I know you're partly, or you know, any one of those lines, or, you know, not from this country, you know, maybe you're trying to legally become a citizen, you know, and you get lumped into you know,
I mean, socially speaking, I have the lived experience of a straight white male.
right.
That is how I present to the world. That's how I've always been perceived. So anything else is kind of inconsequential to that part of the conversation. But you also got to be careful with that left wing reading material you got going on there. I will say though, once you go far enough left, you get your guns back.
Yeah, right.
Don't go that far left.
Um,
Don't go that far right either. Just saying, like the equivalent of that far left going that far right, also really bad idea.
I still consider myself to be relatively, like, in the center, even though I switched parties. Like, I'm not, you know, the other the other problem of being woke is when you start clumping people into categories that you want them to fit so that you can feel better about yourself at the end of the day. Like that's something that as a society, as humanity, we need to just stop doing, and we need to just start, plucking people out individually, and stop blaming party or groups or whatever, because everybody involved in like these behaviors and stuff is, guilty of something, and it might be some skeleton in a closet you don't want coming out, or not you, but like you as in royal you. It might be some skeleton in a closet you don't want somebody like finding and like, dredging up to the surface or bringing it out of the closet, or whatever the case is. um but I know for me, like, let's see, we got what, MySpace was what, like 2002 thereabouts, and I think Facebook was like 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. I know the years are off slightly because my recollection of that time period isn't that great, because man, I was living the high life literally. So um there's some things that are sketch, but
See, that's the thing. I'm not really worried about it because at the height of my social media usage, I was what most people would describe as an anarcho-socialist.
right.
It's I was hanging out with hippies and, doing odd jobs and bartering to get by.
Right. And so I think my big thing is that um social media has played as a major role and a major factor in how quickly this has become, I guess we'll call it a phenomena, because that's essentially what it is. How quickly it has become a phenomena because of social media, and how quickly that, spreads. And then when you are set up in an algorithmic system which varies by platform and is also guided by, unfortunately, whatever party the owner of that platform belongs to, so they also try to, like, push their ideals out into that algorithm, because that's what they feel is the purpose, instead of, hey, just some people hanging out and being able to talk to each other from all around the world.
See, I'm not sure that's necessarily true either.
Well, you don't think
Like,
social
I'm
media
starting to
is
see content from the far end of both sides on Blue App, and um, the artist formerly known as Twitter, when it was Twitter, there was a lot of what you're saying, yeah, but then once it became not Twitter anymore, um, the pale blue app, the birdie app, so to speak, once it became the black app, uh,
and
it
became
actually like the same thing where you see like opinions from both sides. And I think it was right around the time that Twitter started getting flack for hiding right wing content that Facebook started actually mixing the algorithms around so that you did see both sides instead of just your personalized echo chamber.
yeah, I believe that is probably a wholly good uh description of
Everybody's
what
worried about
occurred.
AI and SpaceX and all those. Like, I'm worried about Zuck, man. Zuck, you are way too good at figuring out how people's brains work.
Right.
That R&D team is scary.
He keeps getting in trouble for it too. I mean, we might as well add that in there as well. Like he keeps getting his hands slapped every time he goes a little bit too far. Um. All right, so we already kind of we know where the origin is, or well, we know the origins and like the evolution of like woke as it is um now. And really, even though the term has been used over the years, like we haven't heard it like really used, I guess we'll say, since about 2016, like really used. So the last 10 years. Um, but how much how much of woke do you think has been affected by or caused from for movements like Black Lives Matters or you know,
Oof.
hashtagging everything. You're like, oh, me too.
Biggest scams in U.S. history.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter, by the way, not Me Too. That was actually a whole series of false reports, though, which was crazy that you can't be charged with that. Um,
You can in some states, but it is state by state. It's not a federal, like a federal thing. Like, as
well, then we have other
backwards.
issues like Oklahoma, where if if a woman's getting beat and it finally gets bad enough that she gets hospitalized and the police find out, then she gets charged with not turning her abusive partner in if she has children, because then she was willfully endangering those children by not turning in her abusive partner that obviously is willing to put her in a hospital. That makes a lot of sense, Oklahoma.
Right? Yeah, that's some pretty fucked up shit. Or I guess, um, regardless of how someone feels about, the whole pro-life, pro-choice situation, now the Constitution has been woken and is being used as a weapon against the Constitution, which gives
It's okay. We're
protections for that
gonna
stuff.
roll back a lot of stuff in the Constitution after the Civil War.
Yeah, right. And people are
It's just
going,
gonna
wait.
be
People are going, wait.
reworded
What
for
Civil
modern
War?
humans to understand. That's all.
People are going, wait. What Civil War? What the fuck are you talking about? You talking about the one in the 1800s? Nah, bitch. No, we're talking about the one that is. You might as well say we've already started
2022
lobbing.
elitist.
We've already started lobbing
Right. Bodies are great.
projectiles like
Large numbers, actually, larger than people realize.
yeah. Well, a lot of it isn't publicized, right? A lot of it is hidden from like there might be an article out there somewhere, some small little town paper or something that wrote something about it, and you'll never hear about it because it gets suppressed or it gets pushed out regionally, et cetera, so forth, and like federally and stuff. Yeah,
Like that Dearborn mayor thing.
I feel like
And then that's getting chimp clipped by both sides. They're leaving out this part of the conversation or that part of the conversation. That's it. Man, it anything that can be weaponized will be weaponized.
yeah, that's fucking fact. And I part of it is that is literally being woke. You've awoken and you're taking stuff out of context deliberately to send it to your whoever your opponent is, in life or in politics or in work or in all other aspects of life. And then but then
My own mother calls herself a Christian, but when she heard Charlie Kirk got killed, her response was somebody had to take that asshole out.
yeah. So
Like,
yeah.
what? It's another human being, and I mean, sure, he voted for the other person that you would have voted for, but or than you would have voted for, but that
Right.
we kill
Right.
people for that now.
Well, apparently we do. And apparently we haven't decided on if that's martyrism, which it is in his particular case, because he was 100% or at least 95% bound to his religion. And he, spoke that every day. Like, even if he was.
I mean, he was killed for his religious views. That's literally
Yes.
the definition of a martyr.
Yeah. And so, well, yeah, now there's whole.
I mean, with the evidence presented,
Mm-hmm.
it would seem that his biggest issue with Kirk was the anti-trans thing, which is tied to
His
Kirk's
boyfriend
religious
or
beliefs.
girlfriend or whatever the fuck. I didn't really get the which is religious belief, but it's like the kid himself wasn't,
But
LGBTQ.
if he was a martyr, is like, well, was it religious beliefs or political ideologies?
Right. And I guess that's
Political ideologies were shaped by his religious beliefs. So
right. So it's
yes.
still and this, children, is why there is a separation of church and state when it comes to politics, or there's supposed to be. I mean, it's in our Constitution, but it doesn't mean that it's being followed to the exact word. But this is exactly why there is a separation, because every other country before ours, especially England. And you look at their history with church and state, but church being involved in matters of state, and how much turmoil and loss of life and all of that caused. And then you look at what we've got going on, and then you're going, huh, this looks kind of familiar. All right, and since we're in the political area, and we can talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk at the end, because I did a first podcast, and it was relatively short. It was about 30 minutes, and it was specifically about the Charlie Kirk stuff, but it was, just how I felt about it and stuff. And a lot of people pegged me wrong for that. They thought, oh well, you're a fucking liberal, and you're this and you're that. No, I'm not that. I'm just a human being like everybody else, and what was done to him and about why, and just the lack of any kind of actual remediation from that is just wrong. Like, do I, say, shit like, man, I want to kill that dude, not him, but I mean, like, just in general, man, I just want to kill that dude. Like, people say that shit all the time, but it doesn't mean that we mean it. We're just mad and pissed off about whatever the fuck it is that's going on at that moment. But it's like, I don't think that people should just be assassinated because you have a differing opinion. And whether you're like, killed like assassination like that, or somebody comes after you because of words that you said that they didn't agree with, and they try to ruin your life, or all of that kind of bullshit. Like, I don't think that's right in any aspect, because it's like, all of us come and go from people's lives. When I'm a wholehearted believer that you come into people's lives when you're supposed to, and if you're supposed to leave their life, you will leave their life when you're supposed to. And I'm also a firm believer of karma, of course. But I also firmly believe that, if you lived an entire life from birth to death, and you lived to be a really old man, or something like that, you probably never came into contact with who you were supposed to, or maybe they ended their life early, and so you're just destitute to living a string of reality that you don't know what that is for you, because you didn't meet who you were supposed to meet, or what I'm trying to say, like, whatever that particular like instance is. But again, I don't think that, even if somebody came at me sideways and said, oh, you're a pedophile or something like that, which I'm not, but if somebody did, and they claimed they had proof, but they didn't actually, and they had the way to manipulate facts and stuff and made it appear as if it were truth, but it weren't actually truth, and nothing ever came of it outside of ruining my life, that's assassination of character. You're ruining people's lives because you don't like something that they said. I don't think that should be, like, I mean, unfortunately, humans are non-compliant with a lot of things, including danger for themselves, but
we have gone beyond the point of assassination of character at this point.
Oh yeah, now it's literally assassination of person. Literally assassination of people, just because of that.
And trust me, if we actually had fascists rising to power in this country, I would be on the front lines, and I wouldn't even be in black bloc. I'd have my face exposed. I might go down for it, but I'd be proud.
Right. Well, yeah, anything worthwhile is something that you should, put your time into.
People running around acting like fascists whilst claiming to be anti-fascist.
True. That's true. And I think that has even been said. Like, I've heard it in recent weeks.
Don't get me wrong, if I thought they were an actual threat, I would be on the front lines, not even in black bloc.
Right. And so then that goes into, because woke culture is now extremely embattled into our political system, and we like we know that it's causing um, damage. Obviously, now that we're having actual assassinations of people who have differing
I mean, even
opinions.
before that, it was causing societal damage. Look at Portland multiple times. Look at
Right.
DC. Look at Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's
You're
just been in the
losing whole
last,
chunks of the city.
right? That's been within the last 5 years. Like I mean, you see all this stuff and you're reading about it and you're watching it in real time, and it seems like something, well, like it just happened the other day or whatever. I mean, the Seattle stuff was like what, 5 years ago, 5 or 6. Like it's
And it
been that long.
seems like a jihad or a holy war, whatever you want to call it, is starting in fucking Michigan.
Yeah, I heard something about that too. Or no. So the we can touch on that briefly. So that was a LDS church, Mormon church, in some small under 10,000 population town that
Okay, no.
are you talking about that?
That's like it's not like that town is kind of like saying Lee Summit is a small town. It's part of Kansas City, right? Lee Summit is part of Kansas City. That town is part of a larger city. It's a subdivision of Flint, Michigan.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually know
And when
that.
they're
I
talking
didn't
about
look.
him driving from 8 hours away, he was driving from a subdivision of another town that has been in the news lately. But I'm gonna wait for that one to be put out in public and then point and say I told you so.
So we are talking about the church though. The Marine,
not just the church, but yes.
the Marine
Yeah,
of the
that was part of
church.
it.
Because I know I saw that yesterday, and it was
And I
a
have my own conspiracy theories about that. I'm not saying that I don't think it was him. I fully believe it was. But hey, man, I don't think all of our sleepers are foreign nationals.
true. Yeah, they said that guy, and this is verbatim, and this is just what I read on an article yesterday. And I don't know what news agency. I just read shit, but so they said the guy was 40 years old. I think it's 40. He was in the Marines for a time, and of course his weapon of choice was a rifle because it always is when you want to do actual mass casualty events. Um, but it's like he didn't just target adults. He, according to the local towns, uh, uh, shit, what do they call those? Township. So in Michigan, anything under 10,000 people is called a township. It's kind of weird, but it goes back to Old English, like Old English times and stuff. So
Yeah.
the two out of I think 4 or 5 the first 2 township police officers that arrived on scene literally said the dude drove his truck, his Chevy Silverado, through the front doors. And since I actually know what the orientation of a Mormon church is, because I have been Mormon and excommunicated Mormon, but I still live by some of the tenets because they're helpful. And
I went to a Mormon church once.
but how
My
the
skin started to boil and I left.
true
Story.
how the doors are laid out, you can literally drive a full-size truck right through the front doors, literally right up to either a gymnasium. Ours has a gymnasium past the front doors. Like you go in, and then like on the other side of that, there's 2 wide doors, and that's for the gymnasium. And
Right,
but
you pull up part of the floor and it's your baptismal space.
right, and so some of the other ones that I've been in, instead of where that gymnasium is, it immediately opens up into like a set of classrooms and stuff. Now, all of the Mormon churches have classrooms, but they usually put them out towards the outer wings of the buildings rather than right instead of right in the center. But apparently, this particular church, when he drove through the front doors and was able to immediately step out of his vehicle, according to police officers, and just started opening fire on adults and children.
That location was primarily a primary school.
Correct. So there were all these kids and shit in there, and some kids were killed in this as well. It wasn't just him going after adults. He went after.
You're saying there's 2 dead, 8 injured, 10 people shot total.
Well, there was a 10-year-old and another child that died, but it wasn't the 2 dead that they counted, because minors, they can't like release the information on. So there's others that like were adults that they could say about, but children, they typically just say a minor child died, we're not giving any info on that, and they don't count them because they have to go through proper procedure before they can release that information. But so he gets out, he starts opening fire, with a handgun in close range. Of course, he has probably an AR-15, I'm guessing, rifle with him, and he uses that as well. And after he does the initial assault, he uses gasoline and sets the whole fucking building on fire. Blows his truck up in the process. Truck becomes a bomb. Then he's got gasoline everywhere. He uses that as an accelerant to light the whole church on fire. And then, by the time you see it on the news, all you see is a big ass fucking church building engulfed in flames and shit. And so, these 2, police officers were able to subdue him, aka they killed him, for anybody that's dumb enough that doesn't know what that means. And they were able to end it there, but unfortunately the building was already engulfed in flames, and anybody who didn't get out, and there were several others that they said were probably missing because they hadn't accounted for them yet, ended up in that building. But it's like, the worst, I think the worst part of our society is that, unlike a lot of other countries in the world, we have millions, except for like, say China and Russia, because those are fairly large countries, but we have millions of soldiers active duty, and we have tens of millions of non-active, retired, or otherwise service members in our country. So, a good portion of our population is made up of, military or former military personnel. And if you manage to weaponize, indoctrinate, some of our former military, that makes it so much worse, because, this could be your brother down the street, this could be your aunt who lives, 1 state over. You don't ever know who it's going to be when they suddenly get activated or whatever the fuck is going on. And then now you've got an already trained suicide bomber, essentially. Now, they may not be bombing per se, but, they have, and even from a lot of the materials and stuff that they find after going into their homes and such, it literally comes down to that. They were weaponized, and essentially the U.S. paid them to become that way, only for us to pay for it later when the indoctrination occurs. I think this church thing, with this church being lit up, and granted it was a Mormon church, and a lot of people go, it's just the Mormons, they can afford it. Well, they can. They're not in debt. They don't have any debt, period. And, the IRS has been trying to penetrate the Mormon church, their books for years, and they've gotten a little bit into it. And, there was that whole thing with the Deseret corporation, which is owned by the Mormon church, and them hiding money and stuff. And they found all that. It was a lot of money. It was like $40 million or something they were hiding from the IRS. And, IRS, obviously, we wouldn't know about it if they didn't find it. But aside from them being extreme penny pinchers and taking rich people's money, promising them places in heaven, which is exactly what they do, and indoctrinating teenage females to marry older rich adults so that they can basically make babies that become members of the church. That's also a thing, and it's true. Aside from all of that, if somebody didn't have that common knowledge, why would you drive to a fucking Mormon church basically in the middle of nowhere, even if it is a suburb of Flint? Why are you going to go out of your way just to show up at this particular Mormon church at this particular time and do these particular things? Like, there had to have been...
It's a former Marine. It was planned.
Exactly. And if it was planned...
Plotted.
Right.
It was like...
But it's like, when I saw that yesterday, I was shocked, because I haven't seen I don't, and maybe it's ignorance too, because I don't really watch TV, right? You know me. I'm mostly on the internet. I'm mostly playing games, or I'm mostly kind of living in my own life.
But if you don't watch the evening news, how will you know what to be afraid of?
Yeah, right. That's what it feels like anymore. Because I mean,
Or which flag to fly outside of your apartment?
right. I think it was like, I know we're segueing off just a minute, and it's fine. Um,
Not really.
That's
This
why
is
it's unscripted.
actually related to the primary topic. That's the fucking
Yeah.
part.
So I
People
don't.
might not be able to connect the dots, but trust me, they're there.
Right. Well, and I've got another story too that I can bring into here that actually happened in my wife's hometown, about 2 months ago now. I think it was about 2 months ago. But yeah, so I can't remember the last time that I remember reading about an actual attack on a church that wasn't some like classmate or something, like bringing their parents' guns to school and killing everybody or trying to kill as many people as they can. Like an actual attack like this, I can't remember the last time I've seen anything like that in the news. And I'm sure there have been instances of it, but again, this goes back to controlling the narrative, right?
Texas. What was it?
Oh yeah, that was
someone bringing a weapon to their classmates because it was on post and it was an active duty who was posted there. But
yeah, it was
still
that was
the
Uvalde.
same sort of situation.
That was Uvalde. No, I thought it was a Uvalde. Or is this more recent? Or wait, is this the Catholic school? Yeah, you'll have to look it up. While you're looking that up. Oh, really? Fort Hood?
Way back in 2009.
Oh, that's been a long time ago. That's why. That's why I don't. That's and in 2009, I wasn't in Kansas. In 2009, I was in fucking Maine. I was in northern Maine, like right on fucking. I could spit and hit the fucking border to New Brunswick. That's how close we were. So we were like way up north.
Oh no, the recent one was Fort Stewart in Georgia.
Yeah. I remember seeing something about that because we know some people in Georgia. And I guess really like when you know people places, you tend to hear about these things first, and getting it like through the news, and then you just go and kind of like look it up. But this also now segues into this other thing. So this happened about 2 months ago, in the hometown where my wife is actually from in Tennessee. And it made national news through NBC, or through an NBC News affiliate, about 2 weeks ago. So it took it about a month and a half to get out nationally, but it did because the outcry from that small little town was so large, and just kind of like what happened. But anyway, the maybe the short of the short is that a non-veteran, we thought he was a veteran at first, but he was a non-veteran. But why we thought he was a veteran is because a lot of veterans, have a disdain for government after they get out, of the service and stuff. And it's just because of how they're treated medically by the VA, which is a whole set of like, we're having a fight with the VA right now with this veteran that we provide services to. But so this guy was he had some mental health issues, probably was on the spectrum, but he used to ride his bike around this little town, and there's like a little war memorial in the town where the old post office used to be. So since it was already federal property, they just went ahead and like converted it to like this war memorial and it lists only people that are from either the town there or the county on this war memorial. So it's local. It's literally a local war memorial. And so this guy he's known to do this. He'd been known to do this for years and years and years and years. Like, this isn't anything new. So he rides his bike around. He carries a stick with him to keep dogs and stuff from like, attacking him, but also because he had one prosthetic leg, and so he lost a leg somewhere along the way. And so he'd ride this bike around, had the stick, whatever. But every single day that he would ride by this war memorial, he would stop and start mumbling to himself, essentially, and he was flipping the war memorial off, exercising his right as an American citizen to do as he pleases as long as it doesn't break the law. And so he's out there doing this, and so an actual veteran is driving down the road, and the veteran stops and gets out. And he's a younger person. He's like in his 40s or some shit like that, and he starts like trying to corral this dude. He has decided that he disagrees that this private civilian is flipping off the war memorial. And so he's out there, asking him why he's disrespecting, the people that serve this country. And of course, this guy doesn't really, he's living in his own world, essentially. And so someone else comes along and they also decide, oh, well, I don't like it either. I'm going to get out of my vehicle, park my car, on the side of the road, or there's parking spots in that area. So they park and they also get out. And they decide to gang up with this other guy against this mentally, challenged individual. And then a third person rolls up, and it's him and his wife. And I don't think this guy has served, but he just decides he wants to be a part of whatever's going on. And there ends up being an altercation. We don't have, we're not able to see everything that's going on because most people hadn't started recording, up to a certain point. And even to that end, there were so many people recording this, and not a single fucking person that was recording this decided to get involved other than posting this shit all over TikTok and stuff, right? They want to become TikTok famous by this, not actually help this man. Or to get cops there sooner. And you can hear the fucking sirens in the background. So they're coming, but this is all, escalating very, very quickly. And so the third individual that had got out, he attempted to get behind the mentally challenged person and to like hold them and to get the stick from them. And the other two were like pushing back. At this point, this is no longer in front of the war memorial. It's out in the middle of the fucking road, like the actual main street that goes up and down this town, right out in front of the courthouse, bro. Like, no shit. And the dude with the stick, the mentally challenged individual, had hit the third guy twice when he tried taking that stick from him, because at this point, you're infringing personal space. So he was trying to get him away from him any way he could. He collected him twice, and I mean, he gashed his head open pretty good. And after he did that, dude leaves the scene, goes over to his fucking car. His wife is in there. Now that she realizes what's going on, she's trying to supposedly stop her husband. He went to the car, retrieved a 9mm, walked straight back over to the dude, looked right at him. When his wife was trying to stop him, it caused some kind of distraction or whatever, and then the dude just point blank shot the guy right in the fucking right inside of his neck. And you see a big old dude like my size just suddenly go to the ground, instant, lifeless, nothing. You knew what happened at this point. Well, at the time, the mentally challenged individual didn't die right away. It wasn't an instant death. He did end up dying over the weekend, but they tried life-saving measures, but it was too late. Like, too much damage had
to put a tourniquet on a neck.
Exactly. So here again, we have another fucking, like neck injury, right? So as soon as he shoots the dude and he falls straight to the ground, dude runs off, gets in his car, and leaves the scene. Of course, And instead of just whatever, and so because the guy didn't initially die, they charged him with attempted second-degree murder, but as soon as he died, he got uplifted to second-degree murder. And I was like, but wait a minute. Oh, yeah, that's what we all think. And because he had the opportunity to walk away after he got hit in the head, he should have just packed up his fucking losses, got in his car, and left.
He did walk away. He did walk away.
Well, yeah.
And he returned to the scene with a firearm with the intent of shooting the man. That's why it's first degree.
Yeah, but it's not first degree.
At the time that he went to his vehicle, he had already left. He had already left the conflict, left the threat. To return makes it premeditated.
That's what we're all saying, but he didn't get charged with that. He only got charged with second degree. That's it. Now, I mean, granted, he's going to probably spend, most of the rest of his life in prison, but it's not the point. Well, it's a little bit more in Tennessee. I think they also got him with this happened in Tennessee, but they got him with
Because
second degree and they got him with
like,
something else.
it doesn't matter what they actually sentence him to. All that matters is the mandatory minimum, and all that matters is 73% of the mandatory minimum.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what they're going to do with it because this is going to be in court for months. But my whole point is that somebody was shot and killed for their belief of being anti-government, and because they were anti-government and also happened to have mental health problems, they were shot and killed for it. And so I guess this ends up
Well, it was
going
the guy who got the cracked head who came back and shot him, right?
correct. He tried to claim
Okay, so
self-defense.
it wasn't self-defense.
Well, no, he tried to claim that, and they weren't
If he
going for
would've
that.
shot him in the moment, it wasn't self-defense.
Yeah. Yeah, he tried claiming self-defense, but they had enough video evidence to prove that that was not the case. But they had enough video evidence to prove that it should have been first degree, or it maybe not premeditated, but it should have been first degree. Okay.
Well, first degree is premeditated.
Okay. Well, regardless, he at whatever point it was he decided to go get his weapon is when he already knew what he was going to do.
But he didn't, like, he killed him for cracking his head open. He killed him, like, but that doesn't mean it's self-defense. But he killed him for embarrassing him.
Yeah, more or less.
You injured me, I'm going to kill you.
Yep. And this guy had been caught doing something similar before, except he wasn't able to pull the gun on the person that he did it before. There was actual other video that had been surfaced from a few years before this, where this guy with the gun had been essentially, you embarrassed me. Same thing. You embarrassed me. Now I'm going to make sure that you don't embarrass anybody else. Essentially, is what happened there. Except he fled the scene before anybody could actually do anything, I guess. So he kind of got away with that one, but he didn't get away with it this time. But it's not the point. The point is that because culture in general is just becoming so quote unquote woke, and because woke has become weaponized, now we've decided that if you embarrass me or you school me or any of this other kind of shit, well, I just can't have that as a person, so I'm going to make sure to end you or unalive you or whatever, whatever the whatever the case is in that.
Term of the week is.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess this now leads us into I mean, we're kind of off topic here and it doesn't really fucking matter, but it does, you are right, it does go back to what is woke. And what has woke affected? And I mean, like, not just people's opinions and minds or
Man, aren't you
how
aware
they think.
of the sacrifices that the people on that sign made? Like, that was what started the original altercation, was a veteran being upset about something that if he would have remembered his oath, he would have been upset, sure, but he would have just saluted and moved on with his day, because he knows that was that
Well,
mentally unstable person's right that he signed up to die for.
right.
Not the mentally unstable person.
Yeah. Yeah, the soldier. You should have known better. And I mean, the other two, they didn't, I mean, outside of like holding the dude, like, they didn't have much else. And there were words, said back and forth, I'm sure. But, once anybody realized that they were dealing with somebody that wasn't there, wasn't fully home upstairs, is when they should have realized it wasn't worth fighting about, and they should have just let him, be to his devices. Because this dude would usually only stay there like 10 or 20 minutes, and then he'd go on his way. And that's what all the local shop, because all the shops and stuff were down there in that area too, and a lot of the local shop people was like, yeah, he'd do this every day. And he would do it, he'd be out there, maybe 20, 30 minutes tops, and then he just goes about his way if nobody messes with him. And it's like, that's all that had to happen, but that's not what happened here. And then, now it's just like I don't know if it seems like this or if it is this, but it seems like in the last 6 months, everything has been so just filled in so much turmoil around this woke bullshit and cancel culture. That's another part of, what is woke. We've got cancel culture as a result, and everybody's trying to cancel everybody. And here's one of the big ones. a lot of people are like, oh, well, you can't fire me from my job for saying stuff like that. Oh, but they can, because they're private businesses with, when you basically sign your I-9, you're saying that you want to work for them. And if you're saying that you want to work for them, you're expected to act with a certain decorum as a representative of that company, whether you're, working for them actively or you're at home sitting in your living room on your night off. If you're still employed by them, you're still expected to act with a certain decorum, right? And so, now we've got all of these, all this woke stuff has caused, well, in part, has caused cancel culture to be worse. So when it comes to cancel culture and stuff, like, how do you feel it's being handled or not handled, and like just like how do you feel about cancel culture just in general, or whatever? You can go down a deep dive if you want to. I don't care. All right, my co needed to take a 5-minute break because he's having to probably handle something in his household. So, while he's going with that, I'm just going to talk about cancel culture a bit, and this whole thing about where people think that they can't be fired for what they say in their workplace and stuff. And so, like, you do have the right to speech, and the First Amendment will unduly protect you if you are basically in three categories of professions. One is academia, unless the school and or university system, if you said something that goes against their core values, they have the right to fire you. But as far as like if the government had a say in it, they don't, because they typically tend to protect teachers and instructors or professors, just because a lot of the stuff that you end up talking about, has to do with history, and it has to do with a lot of very charged words, or things that happened during different time periods. Two, freedom of the press is only freedom of the press when you're actually acting in a capacity that makes you a journalist at that moment. Being a late night talk show host or any kind of talk show host, you are not acting as a journalism in that scope. You're acting as a very specific function, which is entertainment and humor rather than facts and journalism. And there is a big difference, and people that don't, know that need to like really look into that and figure that out for themselves, I guess. And then three, let's see, what was it? It was academia, and it was press, and there is another profession that is like 100% inexplicitly protected by free speech, but pretty much outside of those three professions, anything, as the cops will say to you during Miranda, anything you say can and will be used against you. When people are going, yeah, I posted this stuff on my private Facebook. Well, number one, it's social media. Social media is not private. It never has been private. Anybody that believes that it's private, even putting it behind a private profile, does not mean that one of your friends or something on that profile, that's on that account, someone that's following you, can't take the information that you took and essentially is attempting to cancel you out because they're woke. For something that maybe even whatever was said was innocuous, which thereby meaning that, it isn't that it isn't harmful or could be harmful, but is not a perceived threat, which means that whoever said it was saying it because they're frustrated and they weren't saying it like as actual, I'm going to do this. Especially like people posting this stuff all over TikTok and stuff. TikTok is a public platform, and not only, are Americans subjected at the current moment, to China and all their bullshit, but they're not really subjected to like the rules and laws of the United States. They will be after the TikTok stuff gets straightened out, and Oracle was named as the provider who's going to be dealing with the American portion of TikTok and all of our data and stuff, and a new algorithm. But I don't believe that that's even going to take effect until like the first of the year. So we still have a few months on the current platform, or at least on the current platform and algorithm, until all of that changes and stuff. And then people are going to have to watch what the fuck they say on TikTok, especially in videos, because then you fall under US law with anything that you say or do on that platform. Let's see, what else do we got here?
I thought we were talking about cancel culture. I was like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, we're not.
Okay, that is cancel culture.
I mean, it is. Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole while you were away, so that's fine. But I think I kind of just asked you like, what do you think about cancel culture as it is opposed to woke culture, but as it is also
It's
like hand in hand.
a facet, right? I don't know. Cancel culture is like, yeah, you want to cancel somebody? Fine. Stop going to their shows. Stop supporting their platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop supporting a whole platform because of them. I am currently kind of actively boycotting Purple app because of their
The Hassan thing.
because of that whole situation. Have been for quite some time.
I mean, as you know, I started streaming on it again, but I mean, I'm not. It's not like I'm on there every single day. But like, I've been talking to people on
But like,
TikTok.
as far as should we be deplatforming people? People like Hassan Piker, yes, absolutely. And people like Nick Fuentes to some degree. Like I fully support YouTube making that decision. It was their right to make that decision. They're a business. It comes down to a business thing, and that's what's going to be. That's where Twitch might actually survive this,
Right.
because they can say, "Oh, we were just giving him a platform for free speech."
Right.
Except, like, that's not constitutionally recognized free speech. A
Right.
lot
Right.
of
Right.
what he was saying that got me to abandon the platform entirely. Well, that mixed with their
Their liking for PDFs.
Bloxian, yeah, I was gonna put it a different way, and things of that nature. Like you,
That's why. I mean,
and Destiny
well,
is a nightmare for the platform as well. Just saying. And
well,
you might think I'm like as far right as I'm afraid people might go left, but no, I'm not. It seems like the biggest issues on that platform have been, that haven't been deplatformed are really, really far left leaning, like way too far left leaning.
I feel that, and like, I mean, I just started streaming back on the platform recently, but
Back and then some.
I don't stream on Twitch, anything like. I mean, I don't really stream much at all anyway. Usually it's like recorded content or whatever, but it's just like Twitch doesn't care about its fucking streamers. If you're a 1%er on Twitch, that's all they care about. They don't give a fuck about the other 99% of the people on the platform. If they did, they would stop promoting people that have already been found. Like, if you're already 1,000 viewers or more deep, then you don't need to be pushed out anymore because you've already been found. You are no longer a small streamer. You are no longer, a part of the 99%. You got bumped up into the 1%. But, and then, I mean, I've been preaching about it for years that, Twitch likes pedophiles. They just do. And that's not slander. That's not libel. That's not nothing. They like pedophiles. Pedophiles keep the platform going. And and people will be like, oh, they can get you for that. No, they actually can't, because of the joint response that both myself and Ansel had against Twitch back in 2021. I think it was. Yeah, I believe it was late 2021, where we found out that a mutual ex-friend, and we say ex for very good reason, he had alluded that he had been in prison and stuff like that. And I don't have anything against anybody that's been in prison unless it was for, one of the three things that I don't excuse no matter what, for the reason why you're in prison. But essentially, they alluded to being in prison and for this and that and the other. And then, well, I found out Well, there was some weird shit going on, but then I ended up finding out that this particular person was a registered PDF. Actually, he was worse than a PDF. He was a registered sex offender because he graped a 13-year-old. And we're going to use grape because apparently that's how you have to say it now because of all these platforms that are even like blocking that out. But he graped a 13-year-old when he was like 20. So he definitely knew better. And
Engaged in non-consensual sex with her.
exactly. And it was bad enough that the family, the child and her family had to leave the state that they were living in and had to relocate to a completely different state, and nonetheless a smaller, at the time, smaller like city, to get away from what had happened from that particular case. And the only reason why I know this is because I know where that preteen, now adult, ended up. And so we both got all of the proper information to send to Twitch Interactive to have this individual removed from the platform.
Including clips of underage girls drinking on his stream.
Including that. And Twitch did nothing. And this dude still has a Twitch account on the platform.
Send him a copy of the red book for the appropriate state and everything.
Yep.
They should have on file and right there, readily on hand on their desk. But, you know, just
yeah, they just don't. Right. So we did all the things that you have to do officially to have this person removed from the platform who was a registered sex offender for grape. And so, and especially that's considered a tender years child. So that makes it aggravated. And Twitch did nothing. Absolutely jack diddly shit. They did zero. They had all the proper information. They checked and verified it. They sent emails back saying, okay, we have verified this. We sent back emails saying, okay, when are you going to get them off the platform? And we never heard anything else ever again. And they are still on the platform, which is why I left Twitch in that same year and went over to YouTube. I'm not saying YouTube doesn't have them either, but YouTube tends to take reports like that more seriously, and if they find out that it is true, which they do investigate, they will remove them from the platform. They remove any kind of monetization they had, and any kind of monetization that they've already been paid. YouTube sometimes will claw that money back, and then they'll just be left with debt they can't get out of because it can go back years. So, you know, Twitch as a platform doesn't care about anybody. That's 99%, and they do not do enough to keep pedophiles off of the platform, period, or sex offenders or anything. And these same people know that they're not supposed to be on the platform because their parole officers know about these activities, and when they don't know and they find out, they get them off the platform, which that also did not happen with the state representative with that, because they were sent the information directly and they did nothing either. So this is the problem with our society right now, and woke culture and cancel culture and all that. There's a time to cancel and there's a time to be woke, but it's not all the time. And it's all the time, and people are just constantly going after everybody. But yeah, unless you're basically a journalist, an actual journalist, not a late night talk show host, which makes you an entertainer. If you're in academia, but not all academia, and there's one other profession. I honestly don't remember what it is because I looked it up, and it's basically 3 professions that guarantee you that you cannot be like, if you're fired, it's considered wrongful termination. But it's very specific roles that you have to be within those professions, and if you're not any of those roles, you are not protected by the First Amendment, and that's what people need to understand, that free speech is free until you break the law, or until a company decides that you're not worth keeping on board because the fallout from whatever you did or said is going to be far greater to their bottom dollar than you are being fired. and even potentially being sued for wrongful termination, they're still going to come out cheaper than just letting you off the hook. Or not letting you off the hook, but getting rid of you, putting you out the door. What do you think about all that? I know I said a lot.
Well, I mean, wrongful termination's kind of. I live in an at-will state, so that hardly ever goes anywhere here.
So, do you know what at will means? Just out of curiosity.
I do.
Okay. Because that's one of the other things. Like people, they go, oh, well, it's an at will state. You can't do anything. Well, that's not necessarily true. All at will means is that you're not under contract. That's it. And considering that almost 95% of all jobs now don't do contracts, it's pretty much moot. They can keep saying at will all they want, but like if you're a protected class, meaning if you're 40 years old or older and you're fired under unusual circumstances that can't be proven that you did whatever they claim that you did, that's wrongful termination. And it's it's fileable, but you may not be able to retain an attorney because the attorneys in our country suck too. They only want high dollar cases that they know that they're going to make guaranteed money, that they don't have to do hardly any work. They just go in and file the paperwork and they settle.
Tell me about it.
Tell me about it. Jesus Christ. Much of this stuff that I've been going through in recent years. Well, I guess, we have been touching, the political stuff. How do you feel about this whole, and we talked about a little bit of this, pre starting the recording up, but how do you feel about this whole, like, one side blaming the other side instead of, one side blaming the actual problem being the person who did it, or singular to singular blaming of things instead of just slogging a whole, like, say, political party down the drain, or attempting to, or slogging, say, some kind of group, whatever that group is, like slogging them down the drain, even though maybe 99 of the 100 people had nothing to do with whatever happened and only the one person did it. How do you feel about all that?
Just that boils down to human nature, honestly. Blame the person who isn't like me. They don't think like me. That's the problem, is that they don't think like me. And it'll never stop, no matter what. No matter what's even proven in a court of law, it'll never stop.
Yeah, I feel like we don't.
You got one side saying that, the Marine who shot up the church
Right.
was, some MAGA meathead who was trying to do a false flag.
Right.
And wild fucking shit, man. That makes zero sense whatsoever. And when people come out and say that he was secretly a furry, the only reason why I'm going to believe it is because he's a Marine. So, Sergeant Puppers or whatever, it's possible.
Right. Quite how it works. Even if you, like, God,
the crackheads fighting at the gas. No, you suck. It's not gay if it's another Marine.
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't know, so it's not true, right? It's like, no, that's not quite how it works. Even if you, like, God,
the crackheads fighting at the gas. No, you sucked my dick.
Yeah, right.
You're gay. Like,
you're gay.
You got your dick sucked by a dude, though.
Yeah, right.
You're both gay. It's okay, but you're both kind of gay.
Right? Just one's gayer than the other one, maybe.
Homosexual activity. That's
funny. But it's true. It's true. It's like you can't sit here on the sidelines and say that you're one thing if you're doing exactly what the other person's doing. Just maybe you're, not doing it the same way they are, but it doesn't mean that it's not the same thing. And then and then this goes into the cultural and social consequences of all of this. Like, what is woke, and then we've got cancer culture, and then we've got people trying to cancel you for what you said. So, like, policing your speech, or the big one, as pointed out here in our outline, is the other massive issue that's going on right now with woke and cancel culture are generational divides, meaning that younger people tend to be using these terms more often and more frequently, and at the same time, many of them don't even understand all of it. They're just, again, riding the coattails of people that they hope know what they're talking about, but they don't really know for sure because they have no sense to go and source the information for themselves to find out if, you know, the purple polka dotted elephant is still a purple polka dotted elephant at the end of the conversation. Like, you know, they're starting off with one thing and then it ends up something else completely, and then they're just like, oh, whatever, you know, and then the whole fucking, oh, well, you're old, you don't understand what you're talking about, or, you know, this or that, the other, or the other side of that argument, which is, and you know, I'm not too far behind all these old white guys myself, but like the side of it that is, you know, old white guys are setting these policies and setting these laws based on things that they believe from how they were raised, you know, 60, 70, 80, 90, in some cases years ago. And, you know, as a lot of people will often be heard saying, this ain't 1950, bro. This ain't 1967, bro. This ain't, you know, we're not out there at the civil rights movement, you know, doing all this shit and all this stuff. It's like a completely different time period, and the shit constantly just, it keeps happening over and over again. But as technology keeps getting better, more and more of it is seen. We know that this stuff existed in the past, but we don't know to what extent, because you can only go by what people, you know, wrote in history books, essentially. But you don't know the whole picture because we weren't there, so we weren't there to actually see it happening as it was happening, like we are now.
Well, and then the other side of that same coin with the technology thing is that technology has now gotten to the point where you can't trust what you see.
Oh God, tell me about it. Every single fucking day I'm getting shown something by the significant other that, you know, like it'll be on TikTok or whatever, and she was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you do know that's AI, right? Like, she's having a hard time differentiating between AI and real. I'm not, and I know you're not, because we deal with technology on a daily basis in one form or another, so we know exactly what AI, and I don't know what your extent to working with AI is, but mine's, you know, gotten pretty good now. And so I kind of know what I'm looking for when I see that kind of stuff, but some of it is really, really getting so real you almost can't tell.
And I can excuse people not being able to tell, but I can tell. It's really easy.
How I tell it, especially when it's these like videos and stuff, is the texture of human skin. AI
Or anything. Like, it's rendering is not the same process as recording.
correct. And it'll be, I don't know, like, humans are flawed and they don't make perfect cuts, or they don't edit video perfectly. And even moreover than that, even if humans use effects or, you know, things that alter how they appear on the screen, live recording still has caveats that you can tell are not AI as compared to the AI, or at least how I've seen an AI is human skin looks like, oh, what the fuck is it called? Like AI human skin looks, one, too perfect, and two, it looks more like what do they call it? Like realistic art than actual art. I forget what the style is, but it's where you know, are 3D instead of like normal 3D. I don't know. I can't really explain it. If I can think of the fucking style, I'll bring it up later, but I can't, it's just not coming to me right now. Let's see here. So yeah, with AI being what it is and what it isn't, and the ability to proliferate propaganda without having any kind of self-control, because obviously, like, so YouTube, you know, if you're monetized on YouTube, if you're a partner with YouTube, when you're going through and you're editing your videos and stuff, or when you're editing it for the platform, you know, it's not just simply uploading it and then posting it. Like, you've got to do other back end stuff. And so when you're going through the screens having to do with monetization, there is one particular area on, I think it is the very first screen, where you edit your title and your keywords and all that kind of shit. About 3/4 of the way, or yeah, about 3/4 of the way down all of the selections and stuff, there's an actual box that, you know, they're working on the honor system. They're asking you, does this, you know, is this content, was it produced or like made with AI? And, you know, what they're meaning is like explicitly made with AI, where, you know, the only human interaction is uploading the video and, you know, changing the title and the keywords, and that's it. And, you know, I think like my problem with the honor system with this is that we don't live in a society that is as honest anymore, or at least I don't think so. What do you think about that? Or like, what's your thoughts and opinions on it?
As an AI large language learning model, I can't really comment on human society, as I haven't experienced it. But from what you
Hello, thank you for calling AT&T customer support. Press 1 for English. Press 2 for worse English.
Right?
I know. Press 2 for worse English. Press 3 for fucked up English. Press 4 if you just want any other language but English. No, I know it's fucked up, but it's like, you know, AI. I mean, look, AI has existed in our society for a while, as far as when it comes to computer-based applications. I mean, fuck, the National Weather Service, all of their fucking computer models that guess what the, you know, what the temperatures and the weather and all that shit is going to be like, that's an AI model, and it has been an AI model for fucking years. But everybody's like, oh, the models, yeah, it's fucking AI. It's been around since they've been doing the models, which has been for quite a few, many fucking years, probably even longer than I've been alive, to be honest. Or at least I guess they used to do it on paper.
Understanding AI wrote itself.
Yeah, could be that too.
There's singularities.
Well, and the whole fucking, we don't know how many times we've punched over into the next fucking universe over because we keep lighting CERN up going, hey, let's see what happens this time, guys.
The beaver.
The beaver.
Do you remember that?
No.
A beaver got into the Large Hadron Collider and shut it off mid-test.
Oh, that's nice.
I think it was a beaver, some sort of animal. It was some sort of semi-aquatic mammal, because I'm thinking it's beaver, and that's how my brain works.
I think it was a squirrel. Don't quote me on that. I'm not going to go look it up because, you know, I don't want to have a bunch of like definitions and shit.
Which one was it? The edition 4 Dungeons and Dragons manual. The first one to list squirrels as class 2 psychic creatures, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, my initial reaction was they're underestimating squirrels.
Right, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, I swear it was a fucking squirrel, because I know of what you're talking about, because I thought it was fucking hilarious. But this is before, I think this is before
You know what?
I started like awakening, so.
On the side that we came from, it was a beaver. But on this side, it was a squirrel.
A squirrel. Yeah, but it's like, you know, when was it that we first turned that thing on? Wasn't it back in like when it was first turned on? Was it back like 2008 or something like that, or 2007, or shortly thereafter? I can't remember when it was. It was like or like mid to latter.
Late 2008.
Okay, so it's like, I don't know, you know, maybe in our various historical documents, aka movies and TV shows that talk about alternate realities and stuff, maybe somewhere along that line, instead of that being science fiction, what if it were actually science fact, but we list everything as science fiction because there's so much of it that we just can't keep up with how much of the bullshit is going on. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's not.
I think if we could get a whole bunch of people to doubt reality itself, it would make it a lot easier to convince them of things.
Right.
I know that much. Um,
Or even to the point of,
Anything that can be weaponized will be weaponized. Everything can be weaponized.
I guess, like, and then like, and I know we're kind of talking about a conspiracy here. We don't know if it's, actual fact or not. We can surmise that it probably is. We can
We've reached a point where the only difference between a conspiracy theory and a known conspiracy is 30 years and one leak.
right. And so, and then even going to that, what
I
about,
think it's possibly like that could be a thing because the conspiracy theories start and then the shadow government's like, man, these crazies are really good at coming up with projects for R&D.
right? I guess, and then going even further into that, what about like the purported effects of that? It seems like people that were born and lived somewhat of a life before we became essentially technologically advanced, and I don't mean like, I mean like,
Technologically dependent.
yeah, so like maybe from 2005 onward, anybody born like at that point of time or later, or maybe even was born, in 2000, but, obviously most people don't remember their life before 5 or 6 years old. Um, another part of the conspiracy is that people that were born before CERN was even made or developed or any of that stuff fall outside of that, I guess, time loop. Or I'm calling it a time loop, but it's not the right term. We fall outside of a period when we can anchor ourselves to know, wait a minute, that's not right. But then all these younger, newer people are like, no, you're full of shit. You're just old and you can't remember anything. And it's like, but we do remember stuff that either doesn't exist now at all or has been altered in such a way that we're like, wait a minute, we don't ever remember it being like that. So, the last bit of this, the CERN stuff and the conspiracy, what do you think about that?
I don't know, man. I can't speak on that in a public forum. I'll leave it at that. It's I'm
Gotcha.
pulling a Mr. Beast. That's
I'm pulling out my get out of free jail card, sir. This is my getting out of jail free.
that the AI collapsed and refused to do the rest of the.
Press 1 for good English. Press 2 for bad English. Press 3 for anything but English.
I mean, if you don't have at least one person down in the comments saying that you just released a video of you having a talk with AI, it just means that you're not reaching a large enough audience.
I haven't pissed enough people off yet. I mean, I only get gay porn sent to my email so far, so, I'm doing something right, but I haven't gone all the way yet.
Oh, I'm fully aware of the fact that I sound like an artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Like the voice, the linguistic patterns, fully aware. It's okay. I married Siri. Maybe we'll get her on next time.
Oh man, that's so good. Yeah, we Siri and Alexa got together, and they had one kid, and it was named Google, and it didn't work out, so they're like, no, scratch that. Let's have another kid. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so now we're getting towards the end, guys. So basically, ultimately, woke culture and cancel culture, literally led up to the multiple events that have been occurring. I mean, hell, even some of the school shootings, even if people don't want to believe it or say it, some of the school shootings were woke or cancel culture motivated. So then we got up to all of this stuff, and then I guess when the world actually took notice of how bad it is here, and maybe self-reflected on now other countries realizing how much woke and cancel culture has affected, their countries and their cultures, was the Charlie Kirk assassination, back earlier this month on the 10th. And fun fact about that, I think this is right. I think so. One of the people from our past histories with oppression and religious belief and all that stuff was born on the same day that he died on. Which, funny thing about coincidences and all that. But in I think maybe I'm pretty firm believed on this. Obviously everything happens for a reason. I believe that. But I think that all of this woke culture and cancel culture and people blaming groups of people or blaming religion or blaming politics or blaming the Republican Party or blaming the, so on and so on and so on. We're constantly seeing these situations where groups are being blamed for an individual's behavior when it's individual on individual. It's like the thing that guns kill people only when picked up and used by another person. Like you lay a gun on a table, loaded, safety off, and leave it there and come back the next day, it will still be in the same position on that table with the safety off, ready to go, and nothing happened because there was nothing to interact with it to cause something to happen. And so,
Unless it's an American-made SIG, in which case, don't keep one in the chamber, boys.
yeah. There's two guns like that. I know the SIG is one. The 6 hour is one of them, but the what's the other one? I want to say it's one of the manufacturers of a 380 that also, if you drop the weapon or something, it will literally just randomly discharge for shits and giggles. I remember
old Taurus 380s were known for that.
Okay.
They had really bad drop sears.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Modern Tauruses are Glock clones.
Gotcha. I knew that when we had this conversation before, and I had said that there isn't a gun that will discharge by itself. I mean, it's even to that point, you have to drop it.
Glock clones with more safety features.
Gotcha. You either have to drop it or some kind of like massive vibration has to occur in order for the mechanics of the weapon engineering.
Of the guy with the AR-15 and he fucking butt slaps it, which never do that to send your bolt forward. That's really unhealthy for the internals of your
weapon.
Bolt carrier group in particular.
Right.
Always use the mechanics that are in place. Follow your manual of arms with your battle rifle, boys.
I take it he fucking slapped the ass of that gun and it went off.
Yeah, he butt slapped it. No, he didn't. The bolt went forward and he said, and you see that? The gun would have just went off. Like, no, stop, just stop.
It won't under normal use. Right.
Well, it won't, period. Because of how the bolt carrier group works. And
gotcha.
If this is going to go on YouTube, I can't get into specifics about that because it sort of gets into how to manufacture a machine gun.
Yeah, and obviously we're not going to go there with that, but basically
you can't own machine guns. No, it didn't just go off.
Okay.
Because there are sears in place that are not in place in a machine gun, and there are sears missing that would be in place in a machine gun. And the reason why there are two different sets of sears is so that it doesn't automatically go off when the bolt goes forward. Do research on how a force reset trigger works. It'll tell you everything I left out.
I'm assuming it's something similar to the shaving of a certain something, but a slightly different process.
You don't have to modify anything anymore.
Oh, wow. Oh, that shows you how outdated I am. That shows you how outdated I am on fucking...
And for the record, YouTube moderators, manual moderator out there, I'm talking about for force reset, you don't have to modify anything. we're not going to get into anything about drilling third holes or things like that, because that again would be manufacturing a machine gun, and I understand that you and the ATF are very much against that conversation.
Right. And we're definitely not going to have that conversation, at least not, on a live broadcast or a recorded broadcast, whatever the fuck. But anyway, um, pretty much going to leave out, like, I don't know, the rest of this stuff, but like as it pertains to like Charlie Kirk, of course I did a private solo podcast before this one, and where I discussed my feelings about it, and how terrible this is technically for humanity as a whole, because it's like instead of going in the right direction, it's like we didn't just brake check the fucking semi behind us, man. We just fucking slammed the brakes on and got the end result of a car turned into sardine can, so or truck or whatever. Anything against semi, but it's like this woke shit has caused, and it probably has before, but I mean, now that we're talking about and we're actually using a language that says that someone was murdered and that it was a religious assassination, and we're as a society, not we as in the people on this podcast right now, when we're using these terms, we're not talking about us individually, we're talking about as broad as a whole. Now we've got like a radicalization going on, and not that it hasn't showed its ugly head over the last 10 or 20 years. Like, you see it in pockets, but then it kind of goes away, and then you think, oh, it must have just been a phase, and then it crops up again. And then it's like, okay, that wasn't just a phase. Now we've got an actual problem, because now we're creating a pattern. My thoughts on it, my short thoughts on it is that as a people, we need to stop doing this shit. We're so focused on who's wrong, who's right, who's black, who's white, who's religious, who's not. I don't like the message, go fuck yourself. We're so caught up in this now that the slippery slope, as you brought up earlier in the podcast, we're on that slippery slope right now. Not only as people, like in our, not only as people in our culture of America, but worldwide as a society. Everybody is on a slippery slope. I mean, we've got the Russia shit going on. We've got this country doing that or that country doing this, and we've got this shit going on over here where church and state is starting to fucking mingle and blur the lines again, and we're having all these fucking issues. But ultimately, in the end, nobody deserves to go out like that. If they are not breaking the law, they haven't been, they're not incarcerated, they're staying true to who they are, whether that's religious belief or personal belief. Nobody deserves to be shot and killed or something like that just because you as a person are personally hurt by whatever that person said. We cannot keep allowing the weaponization of opinions. That's really what it is. It's the weaponization of opinions. And if we continue to allow this to happen, as my co-host here, Ansel, has said, we're already in the starts of that civil war that is going on. But instead of it being North versus South, we're talking left versus right. And unfortunately for the entire country, that divides the country in half, because there's just as many registered Republicans as there are registered Democrats. Like, it's almost right down the middle. And so, and then
I still feel like Nuxanor said it best on that one. You killed the negotiator.
Right.
Don't expect them to send more negotiators.
Right. How did you feel about all that stuff? I mean, you kind of know how I feel about it. I mean, but we know each other, so it's a little bit different. We know that we have different opinions and stuff. And we don't always agree on everything, but I think we agree for the most part that somebody shouldn't be done like that. But outside of that,
I mean, as far as the whole martyr thing, Charlie was far from the first martyr.
Right.
in that cause, in either of those causes. If you do your research while the information is still available, there are public records that can be accessed, court documents, things like that, where even though a lot of it's redacted, you'll learn some things about the Columbine shooting.
Right.
And I'll leave that at that, just to prevent the demonetization of this video.
Well, I think the other thing too is like, so I guess most people in, I'm going to call it modern history, do tend to reference Columbine. What most people also don't know though is that just because, so social media is what made that a big, like a really big deal. You know, it hit social media first before it. I mean, it hit news agencies locally, but social media.
Social media yet?
I thought there was. I thought MySpace was at least around. Is there not? I thought there was. Well, later on, it did become publicized by social media. Like people kept, you know, propagating it through social media. But I know one of the things that people also don't know is that school shootings carried out by mostly classmates has been a thing in the United States since the United States has been the United States. Since 1776, there's actually been quite a few shootings. A lot more than people would know about because there was no mass media coverage because it didn't exist during that time period. We didn't have mass media coverage really until about 2000. And I'm not talking about the news. I mean, just everything, right? You know, bulletin boards, news boards, you know, other things besides the actual news didn't really start happening until about 2000. But
I'm sorry. I actually got to correct myself. I wasn't exactly wrong. MySpace didn't exist yet.
Okay.
But then I remembered this thing that kids were using back then called Zanga. But the thing is that I was one of, like, it was very rare to have a computer in the household, let alone for a child to have access to it.
Right.
So there weren't exactly many kids my age on Zanga.
Right. I mean, obviously, when was Columbine? What year?
99.
Yeah, so I was 24 years old, and I already owned my first PC. Actually, I was probably, at that point, I was probably on my third PC that I was custom building. Like, my very first PC, I did not custom build, but after that, I custom built every other one except for one other time, like around 2006 or something like that.
So Zanga was an HTML front page for your account, and then other than that, all interactions were TTY and IIRC.
Yep, that sounds right. Because I used to
So
troll.
if you were doing social media back then, that's definitely what it was.
Okay, so yeah, because I remember doing Merc, not just regular, you know, IRC. I mean, it's still IRC chat, but I remember doing Merc for many years because we used Merc for a lot of things. Hell, I even used Merc for tracking down people that were hacking my clients' computers. Like I was getting their IP address, and I was able to pinpoint where they were within 50 fucking feet using Merc. And if Merc, I think Merc is still around, but I don't think it works like that anymore. Like it's not as straightforward or whatever like it used to be, or maybe that's not even just, it was unregulated back then, and I think now it is, you know, like the censoring, like, you know, censor of information, which a lot of people also don't know this about the internet. When the internet went from the BBB systems that the military essentially used for communicating back and forth through the internet that used to be like the ARPANET. I think it used to be ARPANET or some shit like that. When the systems first went from the BBBs over to like actual internet, like AOL era, because AOL was essentially the first company out there to like you know, make it to where, you know, on the original web, like World Wide Web 1, AOL censored the fuck out of the internet. You could not access sites outside of the United States unless you knew how to access sites outside of the United States. It would block everything that was outside the US.
It's still like that to a large degree.
Yeah, of course it is. But
Where
it's
you
just
are regionally affects how much of the internet you can access. Still to
exactly.
this day.
Unless ways to get around that,
Tunneling's
which
just a lot easier.
well, and I mean we're
You
on
just use a VPN instead of tunneling, right?
right. Well,
The VPN tunnels for you. You're paying for that service.
and we're on World Wide Web 3 anyway, which isn't really recent. I mean, WW3 came out in like I want to say 2010, but it wasn't widely used until maybe the last 6 or 7 years. Like a lot of people were.
Still haven't nearly touched the limitations.
Well, no, we haven't because a lot of people were still using WW2 up until literally 6 or 7 years ago. So, and people still are using WW2 for a lot of their pages and stuff, which, limits that information even further because you're talking about, what? What do you need? Is she in here? Okay, just let her in. Or not. Okay, then. Um, yeah, so even like some of the web pages and stuff you go to, if you look at the back end, it still says World Wide Web 2 or WW2. You're like, what the fuck? We're on WW3. It happened so like 15 years ago or some shit. And it's just because slow adaptation to newer systems by primarily people that don't like technology, which is half of my generation. Half of my generation.
I guarantee you, there's some people doing it for throttle limitation.
Yeah, I guess it could be that too.
I think it would be the best way to put it. The easiest way to prevent a DDoS is by limiting what each individual connection can do.
That makes sense, actually. To me. I mean, it makes sense to me. Exactly how you said it.
Even unintentional DDoS is like what happens to game servers.
Yeah, right. Ping lagging and all that stuff. But, yeah, so.
Oh, man. I've been on roleplay servers where the whole server will just smash multiple times a day because of racing events or some famous person getting arrested, blah, blah, blah.
That's funny.
Me getting arrested.
Right? Shroud getting arrested. I mean, what?
Oh, man.
I remember that too.
If you go back to those clips,
Uh-huh.
for some reason, his voice is muted now.
You can't
hear him in any of the clips.
That's crazy. I might actually have a recorded clip though that can't be muted.
Oh, I definitely have some raws.
Yeah. So I guess like I don't know. Going forward, like and this is us just kind of rounding it out and ending like going forward. I don't know. Like I think like I understand what woke is and like I understand what like our woke culture and like cancel culture and stuff is, but I guess like what things do you think people should be focusing on as a takeaway from everything that we talked about? Even the conspiracy stuff, they can think whatever they want about it because we just touched on that briefly. But like going forward, like you know, is this something as simple as instead of just taking something at face value, should people, and I mean I think they should, but should people be more um cognizant of going and finding out if that information is actually correct, or like what do we, do we police the internet more than it already is policed? Like I don't know if there really is any good, solutions to like trying to get society to stop basically nuking itself.
So, policing the internet is almost impossible. But using the internet as a tool for policing, I mean, self snitching culture is crazy. all the people doing dirt on IG Live and things like that, and it's just wild to me how long it takes for them to get caught.
Right. I've noticed that too. And then even if sometimes if they are caught, like what, they're banned for a couple of days or something, and then they're right back doing the same shit. It's like, didn't you learn the first time?
No, I'm talking like somebody will post an IG Live about to backdoor the homie.
Okay.
It's not a triple X rated title.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different kind of
So
backdooring.
doxing essentially, or something like it.
No, like hey man, you want to come over? I got a bottle and a couple girls over here that want to smash. All right,
Okay.
but I need you to meet me in this parking garage, and I'll pick you up there, and you can chill with the girls in the back while we come to my place.
Okay.
But when the homie gets there, there's no two girls in the back seat. It's two of your other homies in the back seat,
Huh.
and you just run them pockets and leave him in that parking garage with no whip.
Right. Right.
Best case scenario. Like best case scenario for the guy who's getting backdoored is that exact situation.
Right.
Gets robbed of everything he has, car gets stolen, loses a friend. What he
Right.
thought was a friend.
Oh yeah. You don't know
He's a
until you
cautious
know.
6'9", man. Nobody caught what he was saying, but he was asked in an interview, "Did you really snitch on the homies?" And he was like, "Let me ask you something. If I smash your girl, am I the homie?" Nah. And then he like had a few other. If I backdoor you, am I the homie? Nah. All right. So did I snitch on any of my homies?
Nah.
And nobody realized he was actually admitting that he snitched on people that he fucked with.
Right.
But obviously they weren't his homies because if I smash your girl, am I your homie?
Exactly. So he's using the logic theory chain that we unfortunately end up having to use on people because they spout off a bunch of stuff, and then you have to go, oh well, then by your logic, blah blah blah, blah. And then they're looking at you like, no, and you're going yes, and they're going no, and you're going yes because you explained it as this, which therefore means that every action that you do that falls under this means by your logic that's this, and then they try to argue no, and it's like you can't go two ways on this.
But I shouldn't be expected to expend the emotional labor of educating you on how wrong you are.
Right.
You should go out and do your own research and educate. No, I have, and these are the conclusions that I've come to. And
Right.
I've analyzed you, and these seem to be the conclusions that you've come to.
Right.
Unless, of course, we change this slight detail.
Okay. Yeah.
You get what
And
I'm
then
saying?
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking like it, in its base form, I guess the best way to say it is propaganda of some kind is what
I'm
it is.
trying to be as politically correct as I can and prevent you from getting canceled.
Well, I believe me, people have tried. That's why I was almost 10,000 followers on fucking YouTube, and then all of a sudden I fucking take some time off and I come back and I'm starting off with like 5,800 again. So that's where that literally actually happened. Um,
I don't know. I feel like unfortunately the woke anti woke thing is leading us closer to a civil war, but we're always on the edge of civil war because people are so polarized. It's right versus left, black versus white. It,
you're oppressing me.
like it's right.
Oppress, 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 oppress.
They just keep feeding us reasons to fight with each other.
Of course. It's to change the narrative from where we actually need to be focused, and we can't be focused on that because the narrative has been changed deliberately.
Yeah, we need to get focused on shrinking this government back down. As much as I hate to say it, like
Oh,
that's
I agree.
oh, you're just so right wing. Like, no, I'm a constitutional conservative.
Yeah, which means you
Always
don't.
have been. We
You,
appear as social anarchists sometimes, but that's just because some of us are hippies.
yeah, right. Or children of hippies, like is my case. I didn't grow
I
up
mean,
as a I didn't grow up
fuck
as a
me,
hippie, but my
I was
mother
a
was.
hippie. Like I was not a hipster. I wasn't living in some loft. I lived in a loft a couple times, but that was like during my you gotta have a home base, right? But I was living out of my fucking van, traveling
Right.
with my tools, doing work, like volunteering my time at campgrounds,
Right.
living free. I was an actual hippie.
Well, and
It was weird.
even to that extent though, like I feel like that's where we need to be heading as a society, right? And instead of all this polarization and stuff that we're going through, instead of all that, like why can't we go back to, and I'm not saying we would ever get back to 100, or well we might one day 100%
Feel
kind of
free
get
to
back to that,
donate to the
but
Homestead Fund. I'm just saying.
right. Um
You've got the link and everything.
but like why can't, well, I mean as a society as a whole, like why can't we just get back to, you know, if we, you know, treating
Right.
each other with respect, or either, you know, treating each other with civility. And I actually said it, I think in the last podcast too. I said we're in a war. We are currently entering a war of civility, not being civil, but a war of civility, meaning that, you know, what we're core fighting about is civility and not anything else. And people don't, like, I guess, understand how to get there, or there's just too many people following other people to try to be a part of something, but it's unfortunately not always being a part of something that is for the betterment of humanity. It's usually
And
not.
unfortunately, like, I get what you're trying to say, but it, how do I say this tactfully? W- We also can't let it get to the point where the violent minority, those who are uncivilized, those who think that violence is the answer to,
Everything.
right, takes force and wipes out the silent majority, which is those who would choose peace, those who would love to live in a country where they could have a job making goods that are, you know, distributed and sold in America, or selling those goods, or making food, feeding people, or making houses or whatever, and not have to worry about their own fellow countrymen bombing their cars on the way to work, or disrupting governmental flow by shutting down a federal building on a federal workday, uh, just so that I'm pointing fingers at both sides here.
Right.
Um, some people, named Hassan Piker, might say something about how one side needs to turn down the temperature, but it's the other side that is raining lead.
Yeah.
And that's kind of weird to me. Um, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not saying let's hope it stays that way, but I'm saying let's hope it doesn't go the other way. Because while it's true that if you go far enough left, you get your guns back, you don't have to go very far to the right before you start collecting them.
Right. Or collecting bullets, as it were.
Paying for training courses, buying equipment. If you are well employed, which a lot of middle aged conservatives are, then you probably have modern accessories for your modern fighting equipment,
Right.
as our founding fathers intended. Um, because while it is true that a lot of the Minutemen were showing up with their hunting rifles, those hunting rifles are not exactly the kind of thing that you're thinking they were. They were the exact same rifles that were being used as weapons of war at the time.
Correct. Yeah, and that
In some
landscape has
cases,
changed
they
quite a
were
bit.
actually in better condition than proper mil spec. And if we are to be a well regulated militia, that is what we need to be capable of. Because if we are attacked by an outside force, or if we do come to find ourselves under a tyrannical government, it is our duty as citizens of this great nation to set things right.
That's true.
I said at the beginning of this conversation, if there were actually fascists out there, I would be on the front lines.
Right. There might be a couple, but I don't think it's enough to. And
They're not in power, and
right.
um,
They might have a sway with words, but they don't have yet the ability to sway policy.
this
Per
isn't
se.
a call to arms or me saying that they should change their temperature, but it kind of seems to me that most of the far right extremists are actually a little afraid of the idea of civil war because of whatever reason. In my mind, it is hopefully because they don't want to have to kill their fellow countrymen.
Right.
Because they have stopped showing up in force to these events. They, in many cases, show up unarmed to events now.
Right.
There's still the ones that are, so far right that they should go back east and time travel.
Yeah, right.
I'll say that as tactfully as I can. But, there are also those who are so far left that they should go a little west and maybe north in time travel.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that ultimately is it. So the takeaway is essentially,
Shit together, America. That's the takeaway.
yeah, there's the segue. Get your shit together, America. We're those of us
your own
that
morals instead of what your party's leaders
think you should be.
say to do.
Correct. Be your own person. Find out if the information is true or not. Do not use sources like Wiki because that information can be changed literally by anybody across the world. They don't even have to be locally based.
I use Snopes, but then I want you to go to YouTube and I want you to find the full context of the clip that they 10 out of 10 times
pulled it from.
post out of context. Unless they're posting something about Andrew Tate, he's just a fuckface. It's a character. I mean, come on, he plays it well.
Right. Right. Yep, I feel it. All right, guys. So, Ansel, thank you for being here for this as a co-host, so we could have something to bounce off of, and thank you everybody else that has been listening to this. Obviously, you're not you'll be watching it like it's a video, but you'll only be getting audio. And I think like maybe the next Unscripted Room. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to come up with it, but I was thinking about touching, what social media has done to our society, and all the problems with like the thoughts, and this creates its own violence too, like social media violence, and some of the stuff that has come from even quote unquote gaming violence. And I don't mean the violence that you show in a video game against other people in that video game. Like there's actual harm that gaming culture has done to people in various parts of this world that would absolutely blow most people's minds. It's something that I know about because this goes back quite a few years. And a lot of people don't even know about this stuff because it happened before they were born, and so therefore they, unless they see a random article about it online, you're just not going to know about it. But I think we might talk about gaming culture, like gaming culture and social media, on the next one. And if Ansel's available, we'll have him on. I'll try to get my other buddy on too, and that way we can have like a three-way. But I don't know how that's going to work out with his schedule and stuff. But anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll just leave you with that. And peace.